Hello, people of the internet. Now, this is going to be the first video of two videos where I discuss home recording studio stuff in connection with a Linux operating system or a Linux desktop computer. So there will be no Windows related stuff here and virtually no Mac related stuff here either. But I decided to make two videos because I ran into a specific problem with the home recording using FireWire units, and this first video is about that problem. But on the second video, I think I'm going to talk about and discuss a little bit more about, the kind of budget setup that I have for a home recording studio using a Linux operating system. And the specific problem that I'm going to address in this video is about, well, what do you do if you want to record cheaply? Let's say in your practice room or whatever, you have a little band and you want to record your playing and maybe edit it even a little bit and so on. And well, of course you can go and buy hardware for that and software for that, but I decided that okay, since I'm familiar with Linux systems and I have been for over 20 years, so I kind of know how they work, and then I knew that something like Ubuntu Studio existed, so I decided, okay, well, I'm going to use that. Now this is a Presonus Firestudio 2626, and I always got this thing working with my Linux machines, either desktops or laptops. With FireWire, I could basically get it working almost, as you say, out of the box. Just put the cable in and tell the recording software which you had to work with this. Okay, so good. So you have 8 channels because this Firestudio unit as such has 8 XLR inputs. But the problem is that, well, what if 8 channels is not enough? You might need, well, let's say 16 channels. Well, that might do it. Well, then the obvious thing is that, as everybody knows who use the FireWire things, is, well, you go and buy another one of these Firestudio 2626 units. And then, let me see where I have the cable. Oh, it's right here. And then you just, daisy chain or cascade the 2 units together with the FireWire cable like this. And then you have another FireWire cable coming from this and going to the computer. And what do you know? You have 16 channels. Now this is the theory how it would work, but this is the specific problem that I ran into, and that doesn't work in the Linux world. I read nearly every bit of advice I could, and I even wrote to an expert on the subject, and he sent me very good advice in how to do some configuration files to the Linux folder structure, or about places which tackle with the FireWire things. And but I couldn't make any of those work. I mean, I tried everything possible, but I just couldn't daisy chain 2 of these 2626 Firestudio units and make it work. And I think the basic problem why this doesn't work is the fact that the operating system is seeing actually 2 devices with both 8 channel input, and you can try and tell the system that no, it's actually 1 device with 16 channels, but this is not how the FireWire drivers in the Linux system. I think originally it's the FATO FireWire drivers, and later I think these days it's included in the ALSA stack of drivers, and ALSA is what I'm using these days, but that stuff just doesn't work. Somehow the computer has very hard time of having 2 FireWire devices in the system. So what do? Well, I had 2 units and even bought like professional level cables for that, and I couldn't make it work. And trust me, this took me almost countless hours to figure out myself, because there was not much help in the internet, so I hope maybe this video will help somebody. The solution or the workaround to this problem, if you still want that 16 channels, is actually quite obvious once you figure out what you have to do. And well, what you have to do is actually abandon the other FireWire unit. Use one. On top of that, this understands about FireWire, it also understands about ADAT. And what do you know? The upper unit that I have here is also a Presonus, but it's a Digimax D8. And so what this little thing here is doing is outputting ADAT signal into this one, and then this one is kind of understanding, okay, instead of 8 mic inputs, I now have 16, 8 of them coming from here, and I better output that stuff into the computer. And doing it this way, the computer will now see only one FireWire unit, which is this one, and okay, fine, everything works. Now there is also, I think potentially you could, I could add this up using this Firestudio 2626, using this one. I think I could expand this system to have 24 channels. Now let me show you on paper, I mean, what you have to do and how you need to connect these things up, and how it's going about. It's actually right in front of your eyes. The solution is right in front of your eyes. I could turn this around and show you, but there is so much of this spaghetti everywhere, and there is even more on the backside. Check out the other video and you will see how much spaghetti there actually is. But for this, let's go and see on the paper how to make this thing work. All right. This, which you can see here, is just a blown up. This is page 20 of the manual, so it's the same thing. I've just added some stuff here. Now here actually is the solution right in front of your very eyes. If we think of recording something, I mean, there needs to be some place where the noise comes from, and that would be the concert or the studio or the practice room or whatever. From that place you can get signals, and these signals go with these lines here to these recording units. Now the top one is the Firestudio 2626, and the two lower ones are actually something called Digimax FS. Now I happen to have a Digimax D8, which is a little bit newer one. Okay, so you get the noise into the recording interfaces. Now in here we have, here are the front sides of the units, and here are the back sides of the units. So this shows you the spaghetti, what's happening back there. When you have the signal going into the recording interfaces, we are actually able to output it into two places. And the first place is the desktop or the laptop computer, and that will come out here as or with a FireWire cable. So we can get the noise data out of here and record it with the desktop. But if we want it, let's say that we're in a club and you want to record your gig, but you also want to have some noise for the people, you know, from the PA system. So what we do is we get the signal in, we also have to get the signal out. So from the backside you get these patch cables and you put it into your main mixing console. And so the signal gets from this mixing console to the rest of the PA system, which is the amplifiers and the speakers, all right? The data from these lower units is coming from the ADAT out jacks from the ADAT units and going to the input jacks on the Firestudio. So that's basically what you do. But this is not enough, because you need to synchronize these three things. They need a common clock. You will need a 75 ohm old BNC cable. That will be the word clock cable, which actually is the protocol so that these three things will be in sync one with another. And I think this is actually the problem why the Linux system has really hard time of maintaining two FireWire units, because they have to be in sync. But anyway, if you want to work around, so then you have the ADAT systems, and then you just connect a BNC cable from one unit to another, and then you tell the units where the master clock is. What I've done is that the Firestudio 2626 is the master clock. The Digimax D8, which I have, is basically a slave to that. So it will, the D8 will listen to the Firestudio, and that's how it works. and then the FireStudio through the FireWire cable is going to figure out with the operating system how to use it, or be in sync with the computer. But as it is, there are no, I think, really suitable drivers so that you could cascade these FireStudio units together with a FireWire cable. You can't do that. Or maybe you can, but I couldn't make it work. Another thing is that I'm not sure at all whether this problem applies to other FireWire units. I mean, and the drivers are a little bit better working for certain brands. But this is my experience with the Presonus units. The reason why I want to use these Presonus units is that they have these Xmax microphone preamps, mic preamps, and they are actually very good. So this is a very good sounding recording interface, and that is the reason why I want to use this. The other thing is also that if you're on a budget and you want to set up a home recording studio, so these days you can get these units second-hand and they'll cost you 100 euros, 120 euros. So you can get them very cheap. Together, the FireStudio and the Digimax was less than 300 euros. But enough of this rambling, because I also have photocopies of the actual unit. So I'm going to show you what I did and how I got the Digimax D8 and the FireStudio working together. All right? So here I have for you the two units which I have. This is the FireStudio 2626. And the lower one, the back panel here is, I also have the front panel. This is the Digimax D8, but since we don't need the front panel, so I'm going to cover it. This is actually a quite versatile thing, the FireStudio, because it has, here are the two FireWire inputs. Then there is some MIDI stuff, but I haven't figured out why I would use MIDI for this, but I'm not sure actually if this works on Linux. I've never tried it. This is the BNC stuff, and this is the clock information. And how this works is that, well, since we need to clock these two, so I'll take it from the out, which is the lower one, a short BNC cable, and I put it here into the D8 where it says sync. So BNC here from this unit, which is a little bit different from the Digimax FS, there is only one ADAT output, which is this one here, and from there I take the fiber cable and I input it in here. This is the left top corner of the FireStudio. So the light pipe cable goes, where am I gonna go? I'm gonna go here and there. Okay. And these are basically the only connections that you need to do. Of course, this one here will have an output, and this is the FireWire to the laptop or desktop. And what else is here? Well, this is your power. This is your power. They are a little bit different here. And as you notice, there is a difference because the FireStudio has the mic inputs. The jacks are in the front panel. In the Digimax unit, they are on the back panel, of course. How else would it be? And so that is why I actually have in the unit that I have, which you saw, I have made little patch cables from here so that I can get it, so I can input everything from the front side. If you want to have 24 inputs, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work. So then it would be that if you had another one of these, then you just would input the next 8 channels, what do you have then? 17 through 24, you would input here. And this would be the second Digimax. Now the clock thing, if you have something like this, the clock signal might be, that's the only potential problem that I can see, since this doesn't have a through. But the solution, I think, in this case is that you can get these T junctions for the BNC cables, and it looks basically like that. This one will go to the D8, so into this hole. One is in and the other one is out. So then you will need to have one cable going from here, then it would go from here to basically here, and this one would go here, and the out from here would need to go to the second D8. That is how you could get 24 channels, and that would be the maximum of what the FireStudio can handle, because it only has like 2 inputs. These are the lower ones here, these are outputs. There is one other thing that you need to do in order for this to work. you need to access the Firestudio with a Macintosh. As I have an old iMac, I then installed the operating system version specific universal control software into the iMac, and I had to do just a couple of checks in the control software, and then this would work in Linux. So in order to make this work in Linux, you actually have to use an Apple computer, a Macintosh, to program this. So perhaps you could do it with a Windows computer, but I couldn't make it work. What we're going to do is I'm going to boot up the iMac, and I'm going to show you how it should look like in the universal control program. I mean, in the different screens that you have there, and how I made this work. So here is the iMac booted up, and first thing I'm gonna go here is to find the universal something it was. Let's see if it is in universal control there. Basically, if we start from here, universal control, so we have a sample rate of 48 kilohertz. I'm not going to change anything here so I don't screw things up, alright? So sample rate is 48 kilohertz, which you have to remember unless the software you are going to use is automatically going to determine this, because it has many choices here, and I'm using 48. Let's see, clock source is such that Firestudio is the master, and there are other options here, but the Firestudio master, that's the one which I'm using. I remember having so that it always tends to go to safe mode 3. Okay, the thing works, so I don't care. And you have the settings here, what meter decay, no, okay, this is something if you are, because you can use this other window, this big window here, also as a mixing console, but I'm not using that. Actually, before I go further, we have three different tabs here. We have a mixer, outputs, our router, and hardware settings. Let me start with this one which we have here. If I start from here, I have these look like main and phones 1, and then there are the router presets. The main thing I think is that this reads as it reads. You know, it's from the Presonus, it's the mic or instrument, blah blah blah, or instrument or line inputs, the first 8, and then you have the 8 ADAT inputs, and also the 2 SPDIF things, and it just makes so that mic inst 1, then mic inst 2, mic line 3, mic line 4, and this goes diagonally here, so that you have ADAT, and then you have this SPDF. For the life of me, I can't remember what all of this meant, but this is the way that it works, so I'm not going to change anything. Okay, let's go to the mixer side here, which is the first tab here. I don't think there was anything, and there are different mixes here, a lot of tabs which you can do, but as you can see, it's just all the channels are just maxed out. Basically, the sliders, the virtual sliders, are all up, and so and here you can see this might have a meaning, and you have auto off here, and you have monitor P1. This is I can't remember. Read the manual for this. I'm just showing you basically what I have here, so that this setup, this is a known working setup here. And if I go to hardware settings, which is the third one, then we have these things here. Okay, so from the top down, first of all, terminate BNC, that's on, and quick route monitors is checked, and MSR settings. I don't know if you can even actually change these, and this will give you just the firmware version and blah blah blah. But this terminate BNC, I think, was something you needed to do. This was, I think, the main thing. Oh, this one has two things. I forgot about that. This is the input side. Okay, there are two tabs here as well. Good. Input side looks like this, and if I go click on the playback side, it looks like this one. So you have mic inst 1, mic inst 2, blah blah blah, and then you go ADAT 1, blah blah blah, to 8, and then the SPDFs. Well, all of this is the same, but this is the outputs, and so these two are, I think, vital. These have to be like this one like this. This is the outputs, and then the inputs tab must look like it's a diagonal thing like that. I think it was so that there is no need to save anything. I mean, whatever happens here happens in the Firestudio also immediately. So I can basically just quit this because you've more or less seen everything that there is to see here. So this is basically what it is that you need to do with the Mac, or if you can get this working with Windows, I don't know. But in the next section I will plug everything up, close this machine, boot up the Linux and set up the whole thing, and I'll record a little bit so you can see how it works. Okay.